Welcome back to the Real Estate 401k Show. I'm your host, Mike Weinstein, alongside Justin Frederick, and freshly back from drinking his way through wine country, California, Ryan Gerdes.
Yep, that happened.
All right, so last week we discussed a story or an article that, a bill and Senate Bill 1129 was sent to Arizona Governor Katie Hobbs' desk. Basically, the anti-squatting bill is which I'm going to refer to it as, making it easier and simpler and speedier for a homeowner to remove a squatter. And, we just got to update that story and update with an announcement that, Governor Hobbs is keeping track with her record. She vetoed the bill. All-time record, I think, right now are the most vetoes in 1 year for a governor, and we are not even halfway through the year.
Yeah,
so
she batting 1,000 on it or
She
something.
didn't even have it on her desk for very long. I don't even know if she looked at it.
dude, it's just
Unreal.
I don't know. She just apparently. It drives me nuts. I don't want to go on this rant again, but
He was pretty heated about it,
but
too.
property,
Yeah.
as a property owner, I have rights as well.
Right.
And I want to go to bed at night thinking that my politicians and my local government and I want them to treat everybody fairly. But if you are staying in my house uninvited and I'm losing money because you're not paying me money, that just doesn't seem fair.
Mm-hmm.
But what she has done, and I am in full agreement with her on this. A few years back, guys, and I don't remember the name of the company, but what they were doing is they were offering homeowners cash, thousands of dollars in cash. We're going to give you some upfront cash right now because you need cash for this and that. However, you're going to sign a multi-year, and it was a very lengthy multi-year listing agreement, and you didn't have to pay back the money now. You didn't necessarily have to sell your house now, but if you sold your house in the next decade or so, you would have to use that brokerage and that agent as the listing agent, and they would make up their money by getting a commission. Well, the state of Arizona and our Governor Hobbs has found that, no bueno. And there's a Senate Bill 1218, which was signed into law, targeting those that are, predatory real estate listing agreements. And at the end of the day, Ryan, and I know we have a completely different philosophy on how we handle our listings, but you can't an agent cannot have you sign a listing agreement more than 12 months now.
Oh, is that it?
Yeah, 12 months.
All right. Well, I'm a little bit torn on this because I see the validity in this, because if you're a homeowner and you need $50,000 or, the lights are going to be turned off, the roof is going to cave in or whatever, then you need the $50,000. And if no
But
one
it
else
wasn't
is willing to
nearly
pay,
that much money. It was like $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 was the
Okay.
cap.
All right. Well, yeah. I mean, I'm not familiar with this. I do see that, like we've talked about NAR and about all these things that are happening, and Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac has started to listen, saying, hey, look, we're going to be part of the people to solve this problem. But with FHA and VA, there's still going to be issues there. So I could see this being something that's going to that people could use in order to get the proper representation that they need in order to go buy a property. And if we're now saying, nope, can't do that either, then...
Well, I think at the end of the day, what this means for me is I'm not so much concerned about the company saying, hey, I'm going to offer you $5,000. Now you're going to sign a 10-year listing agreement. And the part of the problem is the sellers really didn't know what they were signing. It's just moving forward. Regardless of the situation, regardless of the scenario, agents can no longer have sellers sign a listing agreement longer than 12 months. Or they can, but it's voided after 12 months. And I think the biggest thing is what I have found that sellers don't understand, Ryan, is when you sign a listing agreement with a brokerage, you're actually signing an employment agreement. And it's not as simple as you wake up one day and go, my agent sucks and I want to fire him, so now I'm going to go list it with someone else. It doesn't work that way. There's a lot of teeth in this listing agreement.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, you know what they're going to start using? They're just going to start using deed of trust. They're just going to say, hey, look, there's whether it's a mechanics lien or a loan or whatever for the $6,000 or the $5,000, whatever that monetary value was, and then there won't be a listing agreement involved in it. But whenever that person wants to go sell that home, refinance that home, or do anything with their title to that home, then they're going to need that creditor's signature. And then they're going to say, well, you know what? I don't really feel like selling it. I feel like, well, or if we are going to sell it, I want to be the listing agent. and I think that could probably lead down to an even nastier rabbit hole, potentially.
Well, and they're calling this predatory. And I feel like, well, I mean, we never have seen the terms of some of these contracts, but I'd rather get the squatters out.
Yeah, let's go back to bitching about squatters.
Can we trade this into Miss Hobbs and trade? You know, but you know, I feel like in a way, I agree with Ryan. This was helping people, and they're, you know, the people in have the money are in control. I'm doing you a favor if you ever list your house, I'm going to be your agent. But again, we didn't see the terms, and you said they're lengthy contracts, and it doesn't even explain it in this article.
Well, yeah, and like I said, I want to get away from that specific situation. I've moved on from saying, hey, I'm going to give you $5,000, and now you're going to sign a 10-year listing agreement. It's just moving forward. All listing agreements moving forward when it comes down to residential real estate, regardless of the situation and the terms, are voidable after 12 months. And that, to me, is the biggest change. And outside of land, you know, Ryan, our strategy and our philosophy and why people should be texting the word listing to 623 AZ Recon, that's listing to 623 AZ Recon. And I think part of it, too, with listing agreements, there's a lot of things that buyers and sellers just assume or take for granted. And so a listing agent might sit down and say, here's the listing agreement, and just pitch it as it's a 24-month listing agreement. And it really binds and ties that seller, because at the end of the day, the seller doesn't know whether that listing agent is going to do a good job and going to do their job properly and so forth. So this is eliminating that long-term commitment. But, for us, it's 6 months. If you're going to price your house properly, and we are going to tell you what we think the proper price is, regardless of what you think the Zestimate says. Okay, I don't care. Do not invite me into your house and say, "Well, the Zestimate, Zillow says my house is worth this," because Zillow is for entertainment purposes only, and there's a lot of just things to that. If we can't sell your house in 6 months, then and you've priced the house properly and you have followed our advice, that's on us.
Yeah, that's an us problem. Yeah, not the homeowner's problem. So I'm with you on that.
What's the longest?
It's good checks and balances.
What's the longest you guys have seen, like personally seen on listing?
I don't think I've seen land typically can become a longer listing, but I think the longest that I have personally have seen is probably 24 months. Okay. On a house, on a home. I've never asked anyone to, in all my years of doing it, list the house for more than 12 months. But if I show up to your home and you're like, listen, I know you say my house is worth $600,000. I think it's worth $800,000, and I want to put it on the market for $800,000. We're going to do more than a 6-month listing.
That or we won't take it.
Or we won't take it, right.
Because we invest time, money, and our resources into it. And so it's just as much of a liability for me as it is for the homeowner, that I don't want to tie up all my time on something that I'm confident isn't going to perform. So, I mean, I've had a 3-year deal, but it wasn't a 3-year listing. It was during the times of short sales, and I had a client. he had 3 loans on his property.
Wow.
So he did an 80-20 when he bought it, and then
So
he
got a HELOC after that.
Then he did a HELOC after that. And so I had to negotiate with all 3 of those banks. One of those banks was Bank of America, which if you're in the industry back in 07,
I knew exactly.
Then like it was like
they were the worst.
Yeah,
they were absolutely the worst.
And then Equator came out; they got a little bit better, and then they took another big step backwards. It was just a shit show. But it took me 3 years to close that one. But I had it sold within a month, right? So and the buyer just hung on because he's like, well, my $1,000 in earnest money is just making me money hand over fist, month over month. And so for him, he was happy to stick in it. You know, he wasn't going to move into the property. So, yeah, we went 3 years getting that damn thing closed.
Wow. A lot can happen in 3 years.
Yep.
Not in this case, though.
Yeah.
All right, if you'd like to learn more about listings and the duration of listings and listing strategies, we'd love to have that conversation with you. All you got to do is text the word list to 623-AZ-RECON. That's list to 623-AZ-RECON. All right, let's go a little bit deeper. We've already expressed and shared when we sit down and help somebody sell their home. Okay, if we all are in an agreement, we should be able to get that home sold within 6 months. Sometimes we're not all in agreement on things, and where sometimes is just not seeing eye to eye, and what are some of the mistakes that sellers are making and not listening to their agents about.
I would say that the biggest one is analysis paralysis. They don't trust the numbers that are right there in front of their face. And so they want to go and they want to dig up as much other little things that's going to support their narrative or support their train of thought, even though, hey, the data right here says, it's going to take on average 14 days to get this home sold, and it's going for $300 a square foot, and then you add another X amount because there's a pool, or subtract because there isn't, right? Like for us, it's always just been chasing the numbers, and then that's going to tell the story. But people love to come up with these ideas as sellers why they should be able to sell it for more, and buyers for why they should be able to buy it for less, right? So that analysis paralysis is probably the biggest handicap that I see people going down that rabbit hole. And the other one is people that if you have a home that needs some work, doing just enough is not good enough in most instances. If you're going to remodel the whole damn thing, right? Don't just put flooring in one bedroom. Don't just put one vanity in a bathroom. You need to do the whole job. Now, you don't need to remodel the entire house. You just need to make sure that one area is taken care of. And I do see people do that a lot, too. The other one that I see people doing is spending too much damn money on landscaping. Now, hardscaping is different. And it's also a different story to say, hey, look, I'm going to spend a little bit extra time making sure that my grass is mowed nicely, and maybe I'll put a little bit extra water on it or whatever. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the people that are over there, well, I'm going to do this, and it turns a one-day job into a 1 month job, and then it turns a $500 job into a $5,000 job, and they turn to me and they say, Ryan, I should be able to sell it for $10,000 more, right? And I'm like, no, you're maybe going to get 50 cents on the dollar for what you just did, and then you just lost a whole month or 2 months. And so I see that a lot too.
And I think, Justin, one of the things that I see is if you want to sell your house, make it accessible to buyers. I have seen some of the most complicated and restricted showing instructions. I have not even shown properties because they wouldn't let us in, where sellers are saying, I'm not letting anyone to see the house. You got to write an offer before I'm going to let you in the house. And they come up with these complicated rules. If you want to sell your house, make it accessible. Don't make the process complicated. Does it suck for a while? Absolutely. But does money suck?
Yeah, you're basically saying I don't like money. That's what you're saying. You have 3 controls when you're a seller. Number 1 is pricing. Number 2 is showability. And then the other one is accessibility, right? And so with that being said, we see so many people are just making it super difficult to transact. What the hell are you doing? Let them in there. Okay, giving them 5 minutes notice, that's not reasonable. But,
Right.
An hour, if you have your home for sale, you should be ready to show it within an hour's notice for, reasonable business hours, right? So that's See that a lot too. But you only have 3 things that you can control. You can't control who's going to walk in there. You can't control what's happening in the market. You can't control interest rates. You can't control all these things. Those are the only 3 things that you got.
I don't know how many times I've heard from a client that says they absolutely love a home, so they have me price it out, and then they're trying to see the home on a weekend, and they haven't been able to see the home on a weekend, and then I find that absolutely wild. I don't know how many times you guys run into that, but
yeah, and people go, well, I've got kids and we got family. This is a good opportunity to teach your kids the lesson of suck it up. Yeah. All right? Get your crap, get your butt in the car, and we're going to go because mommy and daddy like money, and we need to sell this house. All right, if you're looking for tips and strategies and things to consider before putting your house on the market, and more importantly, making sure that you are priced properly, we encourage you to reach out to our team. All you got to do is text the word LIST to 623-AZ-RECON. That's LIST to 623-AZ-RECON.